My name is Bryce Couch. I am currently serving as the president of the Georgetown Club of Houston, and we're really excited for today's inaugural event and the opportunity to partner with the Hoya Sustainability Network for not only this event, but beyond as well. If you are interested in getting involved in the Georgetown Club of Houston, you can reach out at Georgetown Hoyas at georgetown.edu and we will connect you to make sure that you're plugged in. We have a lot of exciting events coming up over the next few weeks, from a private museum tour to wine tastings to Dr. Angela Stent visiting. So there's a lot of things on the horizon. So definitely feel free to reach out and get involved. And I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for today, Blake Barfield.
Thanks, Bryce. Good afternoon, everybody. You may not have known it, but you just signed up for a Texas-heavy webinar today. So Bryce is in Houston. I myself am in Dallas, and Vitaly's between us in Austin. So my name is Blake. I'm a 2023 IMBA grad, where I was a classmate of Carlene's, and have spent my career working in a variety of sectors within the energy industry, working on a variety of disciplines from supply and trading to investor relations, corporate strategy, and really pleased to share this time with you and introduce Vitaly here in just a moment. But just for a little bit of housekeeping, everyone's obviously in a listen-only mode. We will be using the chat. We'll reserve some time at the end of Vitaly's presentation to address those. So please send questions at any time and look forward to responding to those. Without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Vitaly, the founder of Nanoborne.
Thank you, guys. My name is Vitaly. As Caroline mentioned, I'm a friend of Georgetown folks. So I myself graduated from UT Austin from McCombs Business School, actually just last summer. So I'm kind of fresh off the boat. Yeah, so this session will be pretty much about, storytelling from my end, like what my journey was in the nanotech for the big and global industry. I think many people can relate to that story because I myself kind of from a typical working family, and I built my way towards the entrepreneurship through the education and professional experience. So I believe, like, everyone has ability to study and then to do the professional work, and if you combine all of it with the desire for entrepreneurship, you can be entrepreneur in wherever you would like to be, and so that lead us to maybe a little bit of a story. So everything in my life happened kind of as in a movie, If you imagine, like, a lot of in a movie, when a person gets an investment from Japan, you can imagine then, you go into the skyscraper, all hesitant, all shy, and you get into the big room where, like, very lengthy table full of the Japanese, same looking to you at the moment, people in the same, suit. And so that was my experience, because my first experience came from Japan. So at the time, I was in Moscow, and I've been desperate for investment to develop the Nanoborne, to develop the nano emulsion technology, which we will talk about today. And so when I arrived to Tokyo, after basically borrowing money from my classmates, friends for that trip, because I was all in, entrepreneurship. So I quit my job earlier than it should be done, basically. And so I end up being in a debt in front of my friends. So then I went to this meeting, and it worked out. In about 3 months after this trip to Tokyo, I got my investment, and the company started to be a startup. So now let me share the screen, and I'll show you the presentation, which will dive a little bit deeper into what it is, the Nanoborne, and what did we do there to help, the global sustainability aspect of the petroleum and geosystem industries. So Nanoborne is based in Austin, Texas. We launched the company during my master studies at McCombs at UT Austin. It was September 2024. And so the major market for Nanoborne is the oil and gas exploration and production. And there is a line that connects oil and gas E&P sector with the environmental aspect of the sustainability. And that aspect is that if you improve efficiency of the existing technology, which is in use in oil and gas, you can significantly improve the sustainability of this industry. So that's what we're trying to do, trying to accomplish. We're trying to get into that industry with the advanced technology. And through that, we try to improve the efficiency of the industry as a whole. So what is the Nanoborne extraction is kind of pretty significant path behind us already. So we already at the technology readiness level 9 and at the adoption readiness level 5, which means the tech is ready for the commercialization. And the nowadays traction is that we already implemented this technology both onshore and offshore, and we published more than 20 papers and case studies. We oftentimes present at the SPE conferences. SPE is the Society of Petroleum Engineers. It's one of the key organizations within the oil and gas industry. And in 2020, starting 2023, we started to get a lot of attention from SPE and American Association of Drilling Engineers, and we participated at CERAWeek, and U.S. Department of Energy also noticed Nanoborne, and we were awarded a variety of awards last year specifically. So here on the pictures, you can see that our tech was also very well known already in the Middle East. So we got there also a few awards for the innovation in the energy. So speaking of the how business structured, we can mention Nissan Chemical Corporation as our collaboration partner for the procurement. So we do work with Nissan Chemical to procure some of the components of our product. Then I'm also deeply involved with the TechSea. TechSea is a Houston-based nonprofit organization which is promoting the energy and climate entrepreneurship within the students. Also, another organization which I'm deeply involved with is the Creative Destruction Lab, which is supporting platform for the technology which are massive to scale. So I would recommend to any folks who are in any way of the entrepreneurship in energy to take a closer look on those organizations. They are very helpful, especially if you're a student still. Then the academic vetting. So the technology we're going to talk about already patented, and only in North America we have already 14 patents, and worldwide we have more than 50 patents already. Then the 2025 we also got attention from Chevron, and I was nominated and awarded as the Energy Graduate Fellow of the Chevron. And now we are kind of trying, to build up on it. Then this list is what we won in 2025 as a project. And so you can see that during my master's program at UT, I was busy. So it was fun, it was great. And I definitely recommend to all of you folks who are, especially who are students, to take a look on those competitions and participate if you can. So let's now deep dive into the problem, what our technology solves as a key problem. The excess water production. It's not a secret anymore that in Texas nowadays, to produce just 1 barrel of oil, you have to lift up to the surface up to 5 barrels of water. And the problem is that oil is always coming with water. You cannot produce separately just oil or separately just water. They will be all together intertwined one into another. That's why you cannot just produce oil. It's never possible. You will always produce oil and some content of water. And what's the problem in nowadays environment is that you need to produce too much water per 1 barrel of oil. That's the problem we try to solve. And if we take a wider look at a higher level to the whole United States, you can see that it's actually double more water needs to be produced per 1 barrel of oil if we count as an average for the United States. And of course, if you need to lift a lot of water to the surface, you have issues. And those issues are here. You can see the produced water cycle. It's actually very simple. So you lift up the water that you don't need at the step one. And then, because you have it at the surface now, you need to treat this water. So you spend a lot of energy at these two steps because you're lifting it up, you consume a lot of energy, and at the same time, the limit the oil recovery, the fact that you produces more water than oil, it limits your oil recovery. So then you treated this water and you need to pump it back because you cannot just leave it on the surface. And you cannot just discharge all the water you produce to the freshwater sources because it will be sea, then it will be saline, right? So this cycle is actually enormous spendings of energy. And of course, there is a carbon dioxide emission, and of course, there is a chemicals going out to the surface, and then they somehow left over at the surface and contaminating everything around it. So producing less water can bring benefits to everyone. And when we talk about the environmental adversities of the produced water, right here in West Texas, there is a lot of issues with the induced seismic activity. In simple words, earthquakes. So just imagine how much water needs to be pumped back subsurface to initiate an earthquake. So that's the massive scale we're talking about.
Vitaly, this is I think a really good slide, and wanted to just sort of pull one question out here is, could you talk about why is there such a difference in some basins in terms of the amount of produced water? Is that an age of the reservoir? Is it an age of production? Is it onshore, offshore? Like each of those are large numbers, but one's 2x the other.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So in nowadays, in United States, oil and gas industry pumps back subsurface 20 plus billion of water a day. So that's like huge. It's enormous. You can't really comprehend how much it is. And the major contribution to that is the age of the reservoir. Because of the maturity of the reservoir, we would say average reservoir in the United States is about 25 to 30 years. You produce a lot of water because like mature reservoir will give you more water than oil. That's major problem. So if we take a look to Middle East, for example, there are countries which are pretty fresh with the reserves and they produce very little water. But there are also countries like Oman. Oman produces even more than United States produces on average per water, if we consider per barrel how much water they will produce. So it's all about how old the reservoir. And on the other hand, it's about what technology did you use to postpone that additional water production to decrease it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's go further and talk what exactly the excessive water brings to the oil company, why it costs operators millions. Number one is the operational inefficiencies because the water production requires a lot of energy. it increases equipment wear and tear, and it compounds the production cost. So basically, you have to spend more money and do oftentimes workovers to prevent your field from basically breaking down. The limited resource recovery is another issue, and it's actually, very simple. Just understand it through the lenses of how much you can extract from the reservoir depends on how much you produce now, oil versus water. If you produce less water, you can extract more out of the same reservoir. So producing less water directly benefits the nation. You can keep sustainable energy supply for a longer term with the less energy consumed for it. And the harm to the ecosystem, it's about the disposing and re-injecting the produced water because it does pollute groundwater and it does induce seismic activity. So, and there is a increased carbon dioxide emissions because of this. So these three are a real problem, and these three impact significantly globally. Another important aspect is the one I mentioned earlier, what contributes to that huge amount of water produced. It's the technology you use. What technology you use to, develop the oil and gas reserves. And nowadays, water control solutions are poor. They are not great. So majority of what will be used in the world is the synthetic polymer. Synthetic polymer is basically, in a very simple word to put it, is a plastic. It's kind of that we pump plastic subsurface to prevent water from coming out. So you don't want that for sure, right? And you can see on those pictures how synthetic polymer derivative looks like after it went to the reservoir and been pumped out to the surface. So you can see that looks like a gummy bear, very ugly one maybe. So we don't want that, and the solution we offer is the nanotechnology. So the product we have is the nanosurfactant emulsion, and this nanosurfactant allow us to effectively control the flow of hydrocarbon and water subsurface. It's a liquid product, and we use a process technology to combine this chemical with the water and hydrocarbon phase at the well site. So at the well site, we will mix these three components, water, nanosurfactant, and hydrocarbon. When it mixed, it creates nanoemulsion. And all of those droplets are so small that they are submicron size. And that improves the stability of the system. And also you can notice that there is a nanoparticle adsorbed at the interface of each globule. So between the water and the hydrocarbon, because of electrical charge of the nanoparticle, you will see adsorption of this particle and creation of the armored layer. Basically, this acts as an armor because those three globules, let's say, they cannot coalesce because there is a physical barrier between them. That's what we invented. So this nanoemulsion is super stable, and at the same time, it has no synthetic component in it. So we don't use gels, we don't use polymer. It's just these three components, that's it. So this emulsion will degrade with the time, and it will separate to two phases, water and hydrocarbon. That's it. So it's 100% gel-free system, and it's good for the environment. Also, significant part of our business is the modeling. So we developed our own simulation platform. The IT part of our business is basically cloud-based modeling software that helps us to design the nanoemulsion and design the implementation of the nanoemulsion in the subsurface environment. So how the business works. Now, you know a little bit of our tech, and now let's talk how business works. So we have pretty much integrated business process. As I said earlier, at the step one, we will gather the data, geotechnical data from the end user. and then we will analyze it. We will do the design for the technology, and we will forecast the effect of the technology implementation. So this is our IT part. On the step two, we will produce the nanosurfactant because now we designed the treatment. We know how much we need to produce and what type of the surfactant should it be. So here the chemical technology part is in play. And at the step three, there is a process technology part at the play. And as we discussed earlier, what do you need to do? You need to bring our chemical to the well site, mix it with the water and diesel normally, and then it can be pumped directly into the well. So these three components are the elements of our business process. And here we have a summary of what you can do with the efficient technology applied to the industry. So first of all, reduced water cut is one of the most important parts of what the tech does. So it selectively reduces water production without impeding oil flow. That's kind of what it's all about. You don't need to produce water, so leave it subsurface. Then, because of first, it improves economics significantly. You extend the lifespan of the asset and you reduce the downtime and maintenance cost. Number three is the stability and compatibility of the fluid. Our fluid, because it is simple, it is very compatible. So you can use it all over rock type, all over type of wells, etc. So the performance will be consistent no matter what type of reservoir you have. And the last one is, of course, the lowering emissions, because as we discussed earlier, the system is self-degrades subsurface. You don't need to do anything for it. It's minimizing ecological input fluid. And there are studies, the experts evaluated our tech, and they said that we can decrease 30% the CO2 emission with the use of our technology for just typical standard operations in the oil field. So don't be scared of this page. It's actually pretty simple to read it. So we have here highlighted that our technology implementation delivers 70% increase in oil rate. That's on average for all applications. And here you can see that it decreases 16% the water cut on average. And here, this is a real example how the tech delivers, its efficiency. So the green line is the oil rate of the well. And the blue line here is the water cut. You can see the area before, and you can see the gap where the technology was implemented, and then the area after, which is effect. So you could clearly see that for this mature oil field, we could decrease the water cut from about 30 barrel a day to about 15 barrel a day, and it stayed like it for more than a year. At the same time, the oil rose from about, let's say, 12 barrel a day up to 40 now, and then stabilized about 30 barrel a day. So you can clearly see the effect. That's what we're talking about. You don't produce anymore that much water. You produce much less water. At the same time, you increase the efficiency of the production. And that brings sustainability of the process, because that allows us to produce more from the same reservoir. At the same time, it delivers higher efficiency.
So I might ask you to pause here. I've actually got two questions. Wallace, the first one, which is from this slide. You touched on this a little bit in your opening remarks on, this is fundamentally an efficiency improvement that has a sort of co-benefit of sustainability. This is obviously lower operating costs. You got a lot of benefits. How do you think about this, when you're either your case studies or pitching to potential customers? Is it a efficiency value proposition? Is sustainability? Are those inherently the same thing for this use case? Just how do you think about it?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question, actually, Blake. And funny enough, frankly speaking, majority of the business-oriented companies, they care about the return on investment. So you don't really sell sustainability. You sell efficiency to the end user, and by that efficiency, end user can return the money they invested for your technology. So, unfortunately, kind of, I would say, nowadays, what you can sell is the return on investment. It's all about the money. Unfortunately, business doesn't really care about sustainability aspect of the tech as soon as they make money. So when we been at the prior administration, many companies were kind of forced to spend money to improve sustainability of their business operations. But as all of us could see, then administration changed. All of those businesses, they dropped their sustainability initiatives right away. As soon as they were basically allowed to drop it, they dropped it right away, which tells us that frankly, no one cared. And that's kind of reality, you know.
Thank you for that. Would you mind maybe backing up 2 slides? I had a question. Yeah, perfect. So I'm thinking about this as, you're a startup, and this slide to me says you're a startup with 3 startups inside of it, right? If I'm interpreting this slide correctly. So you've got sort of 3 verticals here. Just, you know, each of those have different needs, from the modeling to the actual production of the material to, really the sales and use case. Could you sort of talk about which of those has been the most challenging? Is there one that's been, more difficult to sort of stand up and go to market with than the others?
Right. Yeah, kind of you understood correctly. So we have three, technologies combined in one business process. And I would say the hardest part, of course, will be the implementation because it involves another party and it generates majority of the cost for the end user. So end user will spend a lot of time with you to figure out how to decrease their own cost on the step 3. That's what we observe nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone tries to decrease their cost. You know that the oil and gas is sensitive to oil prices fluctuation. And when the oil price is nearby 50 and not above 70, they are pretty cost sensitive. So they
Mm-hmm.
will do like everything to decrease their cost. That I would say the hardest part. And I believe that's universal. And it doesn't matter what industry you are in, the end user will follow the less cost kind of idea.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So let's go further. Real quick, not to load you too much with these graphs. This shows the money aspect of the use of the technology. So you can see 2 reservoir type here: sandstone reservoir and carbonate reservoir. Those are different type of rock. So the effect is different in those reservoirs for the technologies. And you can see the comparison of the ESN, emulsion system with nanoparticle, what we are using, versus standard polymer microgel. So you can see that in a sandstone reservoir, polymer that works. Polymer works as well as our technology, but our technology has higher efficiency. But in a carbonate, it's a different story. Polymer, normally, typical partially hydrolyzed polyacrylamide microgel will not work in carbonate. It's because of the carbonate's rock, high specific surface area, and polymer basically sticks on the first few centimeters to the rock. It doesn't flow further. That what leads to a negative effect for the polymer in those kind of rocks. And very importantly, carbonate reservoir make up roughly 50% of global oil resources. And nowadays, because of maturity of the sandstone reservoirs, oil company moving toward carbonates. So there is a gap in the market that needs to be filled, and so we are ready to do that. Another page also about the money. It shows the multiple that oil company makes out of implementation of our technology. Only our. This one is not comparison to polymer. This is just comparison between onshore well and offshore well. So you can see that for the onshore well, our technology cost about $0.3 million to the end user. That includes the pumping service. We don't provide pumping service, so we basically the oil company hire the Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, Halliburton, or whatever to pump our thing subsurface. So this cost considers this service. And offshore, you can imagine if you need to operate in an offshore environment, you will spend more. So it's about $500,000 needs to be spent for our tech to be implemented in the well offshore. And you can see that the multiple in 6 months that oil company makes out of it is huge. So they make 14 times of what they spend in an onshore environment and 9 times of what they spend in an offshore environment just in 6 months. So this is very profitable for oil companies. So that seems like it. Let's have a question answer session, and I'll be happy to talk more about the startup part of it, maybe the journey to the first customer, how to get money out of corporate environment, to move your idea forward. And like whatever you are interested, guys, don't hesitate, ask any questions. I will try to be as frank as possible on answering that.
Perfect. Thank you, Vitaly. While folks are populating the chat with some questions, I'll start with one. You referenced it in your last slide there. You've got producers, oil field service companies. We've got a wide variety of backgrounds in the call. Could you just describe a little bit kind of how this market is organized between, majors, independent E&Ps? There's obviously sizes between those, and then the oil field services, because you have the ability to sell to different types of customers.
Yeah, sure. Like, great question. What's very different between the international market and United States market is the legislative background of the oil and gas industry. So in United States, only in Texas, registered 5,000 oil companies active. So that's a huge number, right? 5,000. Just for you to clearly kind of see the difference. In countries like Saudi Arabia, there is just one oil company. In countries like, let's say, Southeast Asia, there might be like five, and in United States, you have very easy access to the resources. So approaching here to major oil companies or mid-size oil companies or small oil companies or even just individuals who owns a ranch with the oil reserves, it's very different from like any approach on the international market. So in my experience, if you are a startup and a small business, majors are out of scope. It's very simple. Their policy internally doesn't allow them to procure anything that will be integrated into their business from small business. Because you cannot assure a major that you can deliver them a certain amount sustainably unless they pay you advance in a large numbers. So kind of, I would say majors are out of scope normally, and you will need to focus on mid-size operators. If they are out of reach, you'll go to smaller size operators. That's what we did. That's how we approached it. And it seems like it works so far. So we get much more feedback, much more demand from very small oil companies.
Great, thank you. Carlene, do you want to take the questions at chat, or would you like me to?
Go for it.
Yeah, so the first one's just really on fundraising for Nanoborne. If you could talk more about what that looks like, whether you have investors or partners or um, sort of what your needs, what your I think structure is going forward.
Right. So yeah, I was lucky to involve the corporate money as a the company who makes their core business a part of your business. They can use non-VC money to support the growth of your business. In our scenario, because we take money from the corporate environment, we do not need to adjust to the VC model. I don't like VC model. I mean, it's my personal opinion, but VC model makes your life nightmare. Many people I talk to, startuppers, folks who took money from VC, their life become like from one runway to another runway to another runway, and in 5 years they are out of life energy. They don't have energy to live happily ever after. So I don't want anybody to go for that. Why is it that? Like, VC's money, they are very expensive money. That's very important aspect. So, which means if you are entrepreneur and you take money from VC, it will cost you dearly in your share. So the shares you give up for VC money are huge. If you take money from the corporate, from the business, not from VC, but from the company that operates, you don't need to share the company with them. You just need to agree with them what portion of the profit you will share with them. So it's become mutually beneficial for them to invest more in your business. So you buy more from them and then you give them back the profit. So for the corporate, it's kind of double bubble. They make two times, money. They make money one time on what they sold for you, and the second time you give them back the part of the profit you made. So that's the model I implemented, and it worked very well for me.
Looks like we got another question on, how do you plan to ramp production if you are fortunate to have a large uptick in demand for your product?
Yeah, very crucial aspect of a startup business plan, I would say. Any startup which has massive potential must have a plan how to scale. Without plan to scale, no one will consider seriously, the company. So in our case, what we do, we outsource to third-party manufacturing of the chemical. Because we decided that at our scale and the geography, it makes no sense to invest into the production plant, the chemical production. So what we did, we find a proper third-party toll manufacturer who has infrastructure necessary to scale quickly. And what I would recommend to look at is the scaling ability of this third-party manufacturer. So you now look not at your ability to scale, but at their ability to scale. And normally, the toll manufacturer can produce in huge, volumes and use a railroad for delivery, which significantly simplifies the logistics. So look at the infrastructure of the toll manufacturer you're going to work with, at their network of the logistics, and leverage that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vitaly, for this interesting presentation and talking to us about your journey. I have one more question about the competition. Have you seen any competition or any products that are similar to yours or are doing the same impact? And the other one is, are you planning on going global? Where, as you mentioned, some places where they extract even more oil, more water when they're extracting the oil. So, and the last part is about how regulation kind of creates more business for you because of the cost of treating the water before putting it back in the environment.
Yeah, that's a good question too, because we work in a globally connected world. So our business has presence everywhere in the world, basically. So from that sense, we of course consider regions as our markets, and we do not go all over the world at the same time. No, that requires huge capital, and you don't. Maybe it's not necessary to do that, and it's better to go step by step. One market after another market, and in our case, we did that exactly. We started out in Eastern Europe, then we transitioned to Southeast Asia. After that, we transitioned to Middle East. After Middle East, we transitioned to United States. So see, we never really did a lot of work at the same time in a different continents. And now we are focusing on United States. And any marketing professional, a wise marketing professional, will advise you focus, focus, focus. It's very important. If you start to, kind of go everywhere at the same time, you will lose this focus. So you have to be focused on a very small part of the market to really get that market, and then you can expand. So I believe that's also kind of universal rule for anything you sell. You have to first concentrate on a certain segment, maybe very small segment, but you take over this segment and then you scale further. Yeah, and the second part of your question about the water. Yeah, there are areas in if even if we consider within the Americas, there are regions where additional water production limits the production itself. That's very costly for the oil company. They cannot produce more because if they produce more water, they have no tanks to keep it in. And they cannot pump it back fast enough because, again, like you cannot just, it's not like, so there is always pressure subsurface, so you cannot just pump, continuously without breaks the water subsurface because the pressure rises. So you need to be under a certain pressure when you pump. So that creates complication for oil companies. And if we take a look at the Middle East, they limit their production because of the capacity for the produced water handling. They cannot handle produced water, they don't produce more.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. I'm guessing you have to store this water, and it's the same storage if you want for any goods that you are producing or any waste that you are producing that you want to treat before
Right,
giving it back.
right.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Vitaly, I have a question for you because we have a lot of people usually working in like legal firms or as lawyers, maybe in governments as well associates. So maybe you can share some information like on about policy or any challenging part related to laws if you faced during your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I believe in United States it was not that regulated significantly as it was for me in other markets in Middle East or in the Southeast Asia or even Eastern Europe. So I would say here is much more room for flexibility. So I wouldn't say it was very strictly regulated the path for us to the oil field here in the United States. So pretty good legislative environment, I would say, for startups. And another point is that here government has very little to do with oil and gas. Of course, there are some reserves that are under the university lands, for example, in Texas. In Texas, university lands are very wide and they have some oil reserves, but they are not kind of, directly participating in it. They are on a royalty model. So it's a private businesses with whom you deal here. So it's not about the government, I believe, at least in Texas. And also important, I think, from that stance is that the law part consumes a lot of budget of the startup. You have to have a good lawyers, and of course you don't hire a lawyer as a startup because like it makes no sense. But you need to have a third party firm that look over all your NDAs, memorandums, agreements, so you don't end up in a very bad situation, you know. So I would definitely recommend everyone who is working in a tech to work with the law firms who specializes in certain areas. So you need to pick a right law firm and ask them to look over all your NDA drafts first. Then any other agreements you sign with potential customers or with existing customers, always there must be professional looking over it. Thank you, everyone. It was great. Thank you, Hoya Sustainability Network. I'm happy to be your friends.